the introduction to electronic design automation, and we will also study the evolution of the electronic design process. The evolution of the electronic design process, how the electronic design process evolved with the passage of time. So first, initially there was a manual design. What's a manual design? It's also called as discrete logic. In a manual design, you can build a digital circuit of up to several hundred gates using SSI. What is SSI? Small scale integration. And what is MSI? Medium scale integration. Okay. And you studied this in digital logic design course. So you had different ICs. You had an IC of NAND gates. You had some ICs of adders. Maybe you have some ICs of latches. And what would you do this? You will connect all of these ICs on the breadboard and then make a connection between different ICs. You provide some input and then you test your output. This type of design method is called as manual design method. And it's actually typically used for learning. It is typically used for learning. But if you want to have a very complex design with millions and millions of gates, so actually this type of approach is suitable or not suitable? It's not suitable. Because you may need 100 of chips. And if you need 100 of chips, then you have to connect them together. So it will increase the complexity of the design. And now you have so many breadboards, and then you have to the wiring connections, and it's not a feasible design process. This type of process is okay, good for learning, and this is only good for very small scale design, very small scale design. If you want to design very small scale, so okay, so we can say that you can build digital circuits of up to several hundred gates using SSI. SSI stands for small scale integration, and MSI medium scale integration. And ICs are plugged into breadboard. Okay, ICs are plugged into breadboard, and connections are made using wire. And then you're using, how you test your design, you're using switches and LEDs, and you use it for. So what is the disadvantage? You have to cut and strip the wires, okay, and often plug into wrong places, and debugging is very difficult. So this was the initial, like the and what was the disadvantage? Testability is very difficult. If you want to test your design, and your design is very complex. And let's assume it consists of 10 to 15 chips. So it's very difficult. And speed is poorer because wires introduce more and more delay. And also the chip count. So greater number of ICs are required to implement a design. Greater number of ICs are, and it's also error prone. Okay. So what was the design steps? What were the design steps that was typically used initially? First, you get the specification. You get the specification. What is an example of specification? We already studied an FSM example of an ATM machine and welding machine, and there was some specification. Some rupees 1 input, rupees 2 input, and output was weld and check. So you get the specification. When you get the specification, then you define input and outputs. What are the inputs to your design and what are the output to your design? Actually, we started with the module function in Verilog. There are some inputs and there are some outputs. Let's assume if you want to have an 8-bit adder. What are the inputs? A70, B70, and C. What's your output? Some 70 and C. Okay. So then you define your input and output of your module. And when you define the input and output of the domain, then you create a truth table. You say, okay, for this set of inputs, I want this output. Okay, so we have this truth table for various designs, and we studied this. What was the design we studied? For AND gate, OR gate. We also studied 2 to 4 decoder, 3 to 8 decoder, 8 to 16 decoder. We already studied priority encoder. So we had the truth table for these. So after creating the truth table, what was the next step? You derive the Boolean expression. What kind of Boolean expression do you have? What kind of Boolean expression can you have? Can anybody tell me? SOP, sum of product. We studied the sum of product. Then POS, product of sum. Then we have AOI. And or in what? Okay, this is actually sum of product in what? And then we have OAI. Then we can have which logic? NAND logic and NOR logic. So we derive this Boolean expression. And when we derive this Boolean expression, after this Boolean expression, we do some kind of logic minimization. We do the logic minimization. And when logic minimization is used to reduce the number of gates. And if you create a truth table, and if we have an example of a finite state machine, and in that finite state machine, we have state transition table. After this state transition table, it's also can be translated into a truth table. Okay, and then we derive the Boolean expression. Once you derive the Boolean expression, then you create a gate level design. A gate level design, which gates are used, which gate can be used, and you have the gate level design of the complete system from the input to the output. And then you have gate level design in terms of IC available. Then you build a digital circuit. In a small cell design, you build a digital circuit in terms of the ICs that are available, and then you debug your digital circuit. So why not to what the basic problem with this kind of methodologies was that why not to automate the complete design process? Why not to automate the complete design process? Earlier the design was created using vacuum tubes, and this vacuum tube was equivalent of a single transistor, and they were so large and so big. Then the transistor came in 1960, and then we have different type of integrated circuit. One is SSI, small scale integrated circuit, and a chip can contain up to 10 to 100 gates. Then we have medium scale integrated circuit, and the range of these gates was from 100 to 1000. And then large scale integrated circuit. On one single chip using large scale integrated circuit, we can fabricate from 1000 to 10,000 gates. Then we have VLSI. VLSI, very large scale integrated circuit, and then we can fabricate up to million of gates on a single chip. And then we have ULSI, it is a bigger scale gates, it is ultra large scale integrated circuits. So this is the evolution, and this evolution is only possible by shrinking the transistor size. Why? If you are shrinking the transistor size, what's the advantage? We can pack more and more transistors on the same chip. So when it means if you increase the transistor density, it will increase the transistor density. So now when we are moving this to these large scale integrated circuits, so there should be some design steps, and they should be different from the design steps of the manual design. Because in manual design, when we are going to make a design, so we say, okay, how if you want to have this design, so do we need an AND chip gate? We need an adder chip, and then you connect all of these chips on a breadboard, and then you make a connection through wires. But now, in the very large scale integrated circuit, what we are going to do, we are combining all of these logic on a single chip. When everything will be on a single chip, the performance will be improved or reduced? Improved. Now, when you want to integrate everything, you want to fabricate everything on a single chip, the performance will improve or reduce? Improve. So there should be some design steps in how we can design this large scale integrated circuits. So with the advent of VLSI, LSI and VLSI, designer could put thousands of gates on a single chip. They can put thousands of gates on a single chip. And then the design becomes more and more complicated. When the designer more and more complicated, so we need to automate the process. And actually, when we need to automate the process, which tools do we need? We need some tools. Which tools do we need? Synthesizer. Synthesizer will design, the design get is specified into the high level language like Verilog or VHDL into the gate level netlist and into transistor level. So you need some synthesis tools. So this is called as computer aided design. We need a computer aided design, and it became critical for verification and design of VLSI circuit. So what is the typical design flow? What is the typical design flow of a VLSI? So this is the typical design flow. Can you see the typical design flow? Okay. So the first step is the design specification. Design specification. So you specify your design. It's a behavioral design. It is just for the user. What are the input to your design and what are the output of it? Then once you have the design specification, then you have a behavioral description of the design. And we already studied at the behavioral domain. If you remember the behavioral domain, let's assume what is, if you want to implement an adder at the behavioral domain, what statement will you use? C is equal to A plus B. So this is a very high level description of an adder. We already had a behavioral domain of a sequential circuit. What is the behavioral description of a sequential circuit? How we can specify? No. What the behavioral description? How we can specify a sequential circuit? Which behavioral tools? Finite state machine or algorithmic state machine? Now we have design specification. For the design specification, we said we need a vending machine. And this is the behavioral description, which has requires one input and requires two input, and output is when a change. This is the behavioral description. Now we say what is the design specification. Sorry, this is the design specification. The next step is the behavioral description. How we can specify the behavior. For a sequential circuit, we can specify the behavior using finite state machine or algorithmic state machine. It can be a Mealy model or a Moore model. If you have a combination circuit, how we can specify the behavior for a combination circuit? For a combination circuit, truth table. Actually, so this is the behavioral description. So the behavioral description for a combination circuit is truth table. The behavioral description for a finite state machine, sorry, for a sequential circuit is finite state machine. So this is the behavioral description. And then you make some article description or high level, architecture level or design entry. So the third step, once you have the behavioral description at a very high level, so then you have an architecture level or design entry. You enter your design. You enter your design using different methods. There are different design entry methods. The first design entry method is Verilog. Another design entry method, you can use VHDL. VHDL is another language. You have HDL. So these are different design entry methods. And another design entry method is just you took the components and IP and then you connect them together. Let's assume the intellectual property, you have some libraries. And from that library, you are using a library from, let's assume, one technology. You just plug that library and use a block, and then you connect that block with another block. And then you realize your function. So actually, there are different design entry methods. First is Verilog, another is VHDL, another is schematic based. In a schematic based, what you do? You plug a block and then you put. So I will explain this with an example. Let's assume we have this. Let's assume we have some block. Okay, so we have some block. This is an IP block. It has some inputs, some inputs and some outputs. This is block 1 and this is block 2. This is 2 inputs and 1 output. And we want to connect them. So actually what we can do, we can use this block 1, 2, 3 and 4. The output is going to this block. And this output is going to this block. And now we have some, it is connected with some input C, and then it's, let's assume this is a block with this. So this block has 1 output and 1 output. So if you see how many blocks we have used, 3 blocks. This is B1. This one is B2. So now we have used B1 and then B2 and then B2. So this type of method, when you have some blocks and then you connect this together. This method design is called as schematic. And we already studied Verilog. VHDL is just another language like Verilog. So now we have design entry. Once you have a design entry, okay, then you do the functional verification and testing. And you have done this in your lab. In the functional verification, you apply some input to your design and then you check the output. How you can provide it? You provide a test bench. Let's assume you have designed some circuit. Let's assume it's an AND gate. The AND gate has two inputs A and B. The output is C. So how do you do the functional verification? You apply different inputs A, B. You apply 0, 0, then you apply 0, 1, then 1, 0, and then 1, 1, and then you check the output whether the output is correct or incorrect. Let's assume if you want to instantiate an adder, okay, and it's an 8-bit adder. So okay, if you want to have an adder and the input is 5 and the input is 9, what will be your output? 14. So actually, then the output should be 14. This is called as functional verification. In a functional verification, you verify that whether the functionality of the design that you want to intend is correct or not. And you does not consider any delay. So in the functional verification, you do not consider any delay. You only check the functionality of the design. I will explain this with an example. Now let's assume this is an AND gate. The input is A and B and the output is C. So okay, so what can be the possible inputs? So it may be 0, A 0, B 0. Then A becomes B is 1, 0, 1, A still 0. Okay, 0, 0, 0, 1, and then 1, 0, and then 1, 1. So you apply some test pattern. When you apply some test pattern, then you check the output. What should be your output now? C. It should be 0, then 0, then 0, and then it will become 1. Okay, now it's the functional simulation. In the functional simulation, it does not consider any delay. It does not consider any. So let's assume if you say, so this, let's assume that if this time instant, at this time instant, the output is from change, the input is changed from logical 0 to logical 1, and the output is changed instantaneously. The output is changed instantly, and actually, will this output change instantaneously in real time? No. Actually, there will be some delay. There will be some delay of the gate. So actually, this is called as functional verification. In functional verification, we are not interested. We are not interested in calculating the delay of our circuit. We are only interested in verifying the functionality. Once the functionality is verified, then we go to the next step. Once we verify the functionality, then we go to the next step. Because if we synthesize that design onto the chip, this synthesis will take a lot of time. And in this synthesis, if it does not meet our specification, then we have to change our design. Let's say if we have specification, we synthesize that design. Okay, let's say if you want to have a 2-input NAND gate, and we say that the delay of this NAND gate should be less than 1 nanosecond. Should be less than 1 nanosecond. Okay. First, you verify the functionality if the NAND gate is working. You apply the test pattern, you get the output. Once you fabricate that NAND gate, and if the delay is 1.5 nanosecond, what is your constraint? The constraint was that the delay should be less than 1 nanosecond. But if it's greater than, it's 1.5 nanosecond. What you should do now? You should change your design. How you can change your design? What parameters do you have that you can change your design? It's a NAND gate, and this NAND gate is in CMOS. How you can change your design? Huh? By what? Yes, very good. By changing the weight of the transistor. Because if you change the weight of the transistor, the resistance will be reduced. When the resistance will be reduced, you can improve the delay. So actually, once you have a design, okay, the design is fixed. The design is fixed. You have fabricated a NAND gate. In a NAND gate, you need 2 transistors in the pull-up network and 2 transistors in the pull down network. Okay, the transistor of it, the design is fixed. But once you estimate calculate this delay and you say, oh, now this delay does not meet now our specification. Now the design is fixed. But what with which parameter you can then play? The width of the transistor and the length of the transistor. So this is called as, now there are two types, and I also told you that in most of the fabrication circuit there are different libraries. Maybe you have library of NAND to one IP and another IP. Maybe one NAND gate is optimized for latency. Maybe other NAND gate is optimized for area. Maybe other NAND gate is optimized for power. So these are different parameters. These are different parameters, and then you need to consider. But if you are by yourself VLSI designer, so you can say that how you can improve your design. So let's assume the design is fixed, the transistor layout is fixed. So you can, if you change the parameters like the width of the transistor and the length of the transistor, so you can play with the output. So okay, this is called as functional verification. So in functional verification, okay, after the functional verification, you do the logic synthesis. What is logic synthesis? The logic synthesis will convert this design into the gate level netlist. That's how the design will look like in terms of the gates. Once the gate level netlist is finalized, you do the logical verification and testing. So now I will explain this with an example. So when you do the logic synthesis, let's assume you have a Verilog code. You give this Verilog code, okay, and then you do the function verification. When you do the function verification, okay, your output is correct. Now you are interested in estimating the performance of this design. So then this design will be converted into gate level netlist by the synthesizer. Who will convert this into gate level netlist? Logic synthesis tool. So the logic synthesis tool will convert the design that is specified in different design entry methods. What are different design entry methods? Verilog, VHDL, and schematic based. Okay, this design will be converted into the gate level netlist by whom? By logic synthesizer. Once that is converted into gate level netlist, then you do the logic verification and the time testing without routing delay. I will explain this example. Now there is also have gate level netlist. There is a routing delay and there is a transistor level delay. I will explain this with an example. So now let's assume when it's converted into gates. So now these are gates. Let's assume it is your design and it is an AOI cell. So let's assume this is a gate level netlist. This is a gate level netlist. It's specified that which gate will be used. Okay, so it will now calculate the delay. It will calculate the delay let's assume this is a cell. Now you have this. It is actually an AOI cell. This is an AOI cell. Okay, how many gates will I use? 4 gates. First is the series of AND gates, then followed by a NOR gate. Okay, now let's assume if we say that the delay of this gate is 2 nanosecond, 2 units, it is 2 units, and it's a bigger gate, let's assume it is 4 units, and the delay of this is 2 units. So what will be the maximum or worst case delay? 4 plus 2? 6. So this is a cell, and now you have a gate level netlist. So if you say that the total now delay is 6 units, because this is the worst part. It's the worst part, and the worst part is typically specified by this. But this delay only consists of transistor delay or the gate level delay. It does not consider the delay of the routing. Now when you have different gates, so you need a different components. You need to connect one component with another component. And when you need to connect this component with another component, so actually once you have, let's say, if you say that this is an AOI cell, so it means that all of, now you have a pull-up network and then a pull-down network. There will be some transistor that will be used in the pull-up network and some transistor that will be used in the pull-down network. And for each network there will be a critical path. Maybe there is a critical path in the CMOS logic, maybe there is a critical path in the NMOS logic. You do the transistor sizing. Once you do all the transistor sizing, then you calculate the delay, the worst case delay of this design. But this delay is only pertinent or relevant to this cell. This is only relevant to this cell. Now let's assume we can have many cells. And now we want to connect different cells. So now let's assume we have another scenario. Let's assume we have cell 1, cell 2, or cell 3, then cell 2, then cell 4, and then cell 5. Now, which path will have highest delay? No, it may not be true. It's possible if this cell C3 has the highest delay. If it has the highest delay, so it may be the critical path. So first, what you have to do, what will be the critical path? So the critical path depends on the critical path depends on the delay of each individual cell. Maybe cell 1 is more complex. Maybe cell 2 is more complex. So now let's assume that this cell, let's assume this cell has a delay of 3, this cell has a delay of 2, okay, and this cell has a delay of 1, and this cell has a delay of 2. Let's assume this cell has a delay of 9, and this cell has a delay of 2. Which one is the critical path? This one has the critical, this one is the critical path. So if you look at the critical path, so 9, 1, and 4, what is the overall delay? Maximum worst case delay? 12. For that path, 3 plus 2 plus 1, 8. So the delay. So for this path, the delay is 8. And for this path, if you look at for this path, what is the delay? 8. And for the downward path, 12. Okay, so now there are two types of delays. One is the cell delay and another is the routing delay. So actually, if you want to balance out the delay, what should we do? We should place cell 2 and cell 4 closer to each other. Cell 2 and cell 4? Why? What will be the advantage? So the routing delay will be less. And then we can place cell 3 and cell 5 further from each other. It's not a problem. So when we will be doing the routing, so now we have not to consider the delay of each individual cells, but now once we estimated the delay, so this delay is only the delay of that cell. But when we that cell or that component, but when we connect different components together, so we not only have to consider the delay of that particular cell, but also how close they are placed to close together. So actually, if you calculate the delay, so now if you say that we are placing cell 2 and cell 4 closer to each other in order to reduce the routing delay, maybe so now in this case, now the routing delay, that now I am highlighting this in another color, that is brown color. So when we are placing cell 4 and cell 2 closer to each other, maybe the delay here is 2, and we place it further from each other, very farther from each other, maybe the delay is 6, and maybe the delay here is 3 and 3 and 3. So now what is the worst case path delay now? 9 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3. So now actually if you look at here, so actually now the overall delay is not only dependent on the delay of the component itself, but it's also depends on the routing delay. So actually once we do and place all the transistors, so now it's the transistor level delay. But the overall delay of the design will not only depends on the delay of the transistor, but also the delay of the routing interconnection. And then you say, then when you want to connect these transistors, so now you have different metal layers, metal layer 1, metal layer 2, and metal layer 3. So now if we have a connection, now let's assume if we have this wire, and now we have a bigger wire. Which wire will have more resistance? Let's assume this is wire 1 and this is wire 2. They are of the same length. But different. Wait, which wire will have more delay? Wire 1 will have more delay because it is okay. So now if this wire 1 has more delay compared to wire 2 if they are of the same length, because it has high resistance and the second one has low resistance. So actually, once we have the critical path, so actually for critical path we can use Y2, and for less critical path we can use Y1. So actually there are different metallization layers. So in the metal layer we can say, okay, we want to whether we will use, so the first wire, that is wire 1, is optimized for what? For area. And the second wire is optimized for what? For latency, for delay. So there is a trade-off. Between the area and the performance. The same is true for the transistor. If you increase the width of the transistor, so actually if you increase the area, so the area is efficiency is reduced. The area efficiency is reduced. Now we can pack less transistors, but the performance may be very improved. So there is a trade-off between different designs. You can do different design. So now looking back into the previous cycle, now once we have a gate level netlist, now we have the gate level delay. Then we have the logic verification, timing and testing. Logical verification, timing and testing, it only considers the delay of the components of the gates itself. Then we do the floor planning. What is floor planning? Where to place which module? And this placement and routing. Then after placement is routing, and this is all automated by software. So these are some softwares automated by software. Once you have placement layout, then you have layout verification. We also call it place and route verification. Once you place all the transistors, once you have all the metallization there, then you do the placement and routing verification. And now if you look at here, there are different back paths. You go to the previous step. Why there are back paths? Let's assume if we have a design, okay, and then if we have a design, we implement that design, and we see the output, the functionality of the design is not correct. Should we proceed further?
No, sir.
We should not proceed further. First, you have to. So if a fault is identified in the earliest stage, you can change the algorithm. Let's assume you have an algorithm. Okay, now let's assume if you have an adder. You study different type of adders. You want to have this flow for an adder, and then you have a ripple carry adder. You say, okay, you do all this, and you say, no, the ripple carry adder is not good for our design. How you can change it? You can change the architecture of the adder. So what adder now you can have? Carry look ahead adder. If you remember, you studied this in your digital logic design course. So if you have a carry look ahead adder, now there are a lot of adders. Carry, ripple carry adder, carry look ahead adder, carry some adder, Manchester adder. There are a lot of adder architecture. So let's assume if you say that now you have behavioral description, your behavior is not working, you identify a fault in this place to go back. You identify your fault, you change the fault at the function level or at the algorithm level. Once your algorithm is correct, then you go to the next step. Then you go to the logic synthesis. Then you go to the gate level netlist. When you go to get your matrix, if the and then you do the logic verification and timing simulation. In the timing simulation, the logic verification, what are the features that you have during this time? During this logic verification, and you are going back. Let's assume if your constraint or delay does not meet your specification, you have to go back. Once you have to go back, either you change your architecture. Here, what you can change? During logic verification, what you can change? You can change the transistor sizing. If you change the transistor size, so you can have a trade-off between performance and area and power consumption. So you have all these trade-offs. After you, once you say, okay, now all the transistors are fabricated and you're done, and then you go to the routing step. Then you do the routing. Then not only you calculate the delay first. Now at this step, जी आप कुछ पूछ रहे हैं? This way?
Logic verification.
Logic verification में है delay, but only the delay of the gates, not the delay of the interconnection. So in logic verification in time, it's also timing testing. It only considers the delay of the individual gates. Here, what you can play? Now you can only play with the delay of the individual components. Or what you can change here? You can change the transistor sizing. Maybe you have used one module and an IP, and you say, no, okay, now this is not optimized for power, so I need to change this particular design. So if you say, now I will get back to the previous figure. So let's assume you say this is cell number 2. What is the delay of cell number 2? 9. You say, no, now this cell number 2 is not optimized. Now we need to optimize. So during logic verification, you are doing the optimization at cell level, not at the routing level. You are doing only optimization at the cell level. You are not considering the routing delay. If you say, okay, the routing delay is now 0. Now, what you can do? If you change the transistor sizing, you can reduce the delay from 9 to maybe 6, maybe 5. Now, when you reduce the delay, so the critical path will change. If you reduce this delay, so this may not be the critical path then. Maybe another is the critical path. Now, when you change this design cell number 2 and you reduce this delay from 9 to 5, maybe another is the critical path. Now, the routing for this design will be different. The routing from another design. Okay, functionally, this cell is provide the same functionality. The functionality is same. The functionality is same, but the implementation is different. When the functionality is same means if the output is, let's assume if you have an AND gate, so the output will always be 1 with both inputs are 1. The functionality is same, but the implementation is different. So what are the changes in the implementation? We can vary the width and the length of the width of the transistors. Okay, and what we can also change the voltage. If you change the voltage, you can also, there are different steps. You can also change the voltage. Maybe I use a high voltage. You can also change the voltage at a gate level or a transistor level. Then once the delay of each component is fixed, you will say, okay, now it's fixed. Then you go for placement and routing. When you go for the placement and routing, you extract the delay of the gates. Then you extract the delay of the routing. And after routing, then you say, okay, now in the routing you decide which type of routing. Okay, maybe the routing is optimized for delay. So what's the job of the routing step? In the routing step, they first identify the critical paths. Once they identify the critical path, then they will optimize all the blocks that lie within the critical path. So what they do, say the blocks that are in the critical path, they optimize these blocks. And they place all the components that are on the critical path closer to each other. And the blocks that are not on the critical path, they will be located further from each other. So then we can balance out the routing delay and the cell delay itself. Okay, and physical and layout verification. So these are all the details. All the details are here. What is the behavior description I have studied? What is the RTL description? If you look at the RTL description, design entry, which language you can use? HDL, schematic design. You can also give the logic equation, FSM or ASM. Now you have some design entry. Then you have functional verification. Then you have logic synthesis. And now these are the I have explained this, like if you have the critical path, you have to consider the critical path. Okay. Then there's a floor planning. So if you look at it now, this is an area chip. These are different logic blocks. So these are on the critical path. What you are doing, you are placing them closer, and now these are not on the critical path. So you are locating them from the far from each other. So after when the routing is done, so now you only calculate the delay of each of these individual logic blocks. Then also calculate the routing delay, and then you get the final delay. So okay, then we have a physical layout. Okay, and in the physical layout, if you remember, there are different layers. Some layers are called transistors, some layers are called metallization. So then you also have the layout verification and then implementation in the field. Once you fabricate all your design and something else, then you have implementation, and then you test your design vigorously. You apply different type of patterns to the same, and then you. So if you look at the top-down design methodology, so we have a system. System consists of multiple chip modules, just like a PCB, and this PCB consists of ICs. Each ICs, from the high level, we say RTL code, research transfer notation. It's at the behavior level. Then you do the RTL synthesis. You transform that design into the gate level netlist, and finally layout synthesis, and then you do the layout synthesis. So if you look at the level of abstraction, so first at the various high level, you have system concept. When you have system concept, it's a very high level of abstraction. What your design should do? What should be? Let's assume in a vending machine. I say, okay, in the vending machine, what is a very high level system concept? In a vending machine, it will give you a code if the system gets, I recommended some of rupees 3 or more. So this is a system concept. Then you have an algorithm level. From an algorithm level, okay, now we want to realize this concept. What are the tools available for us? Finite state machine or underlying state machine. We have this algorithm applied. Then we have an underlying architecture. In an underlying architecture, we have, okay, it can be modeled using Mealy machine. Within Mealy machine, there are different blocks. One is a state memory block, one is the NSL block, one is the output logic block. And that architecture allows, then you have an RTL, research transfer notation. Then you can transform it into gate level. Then you have state table. From that table, you have logic equation. From the logic equation, you have the gate level netlist. And finally, that layer netlist is transformed into transition of the switch level. So these are different levels of abstraction. So when we are at the high level of abstraction, we are working at algorithm level. When we are going further and further, going down to the level of abstraction, there are more and more details. So we already studied the concept of an adder. In an adder, we said, okay, this is an adder. The block diagram of an adder is plus A plus B. This is the behavioral description. Now you say the algorithm. So actually, how you can implement an adder? It can be a carry look ahead adder or ribbon carry adder. Then you have an architecture. Then you have a gate level, and then you have a transition. So this concept applied to various designs that we studied in our Verilog.